Let's talk about Mercury retrograde. This cosmic cycle has quite the reputation. And in this video, I would like to share a new way of looking at Mercury retrograde that doesn't include blaming Mercury for all of your communication problems. Hi, my name is Danielle. I'm a professional astrologer, and the purpose of this video is to not only teach you a little bit about Mercury and Mercury retrograde, but to help you navigate the celestial weather and utilize this planetary shift for your own growth and expansion. First of all, planets do not make us do anything. I always cringe a little bit when I hear how much we blame on Mercury retrograde for our communication mishaps and technology issues and things of that nature, when that's really not what's happening here or the purpose of astrology. And so instead, I'm going to ask you to think about this shift in the planetary information, similar to like a shift in the weather. If the wind is coming from the south instead of the east, well, maybe we'll get different cloud patterns, which will create a rainstorm. But just because there's a rainstorm doesn't mean you need to go out there and play a soccer game in it. No, we prepare and we plan around the weather. We choose how to navigate it. And the same can be done for astrological transits like Mercury retrograde. I'm telling you in this video that there's a shift in the cosmic weather, and you get a choice on how you navigate it. So when it comes to navigating this Mercury retrograde chapter in August, the main area of our life that is influenced is the function of information exchange. And so there's two main areas that I'm going to invite you to look at and focus on for this next month of August to utilize this cosmic weather for your own growth. And the first is communication. Whether that be writing or having a conversation with another, but really paying attention to this information exchange that's taking place between you and another person. The second is your own perception of life. Every single moment, we are exchanging information with our external world. There's always a feedback loop taking place between what information we're receiving out here and what information we're processing in here, and then also responding. So these two areas are really where I invite you to explore and build awareness around and grow. So now I'd like to take a moment to share what's actually happening during Mercury retrograde. Because when you understand the shift that's taking place in our sky, there's a deeper understanding of what the invitation is for us. Mercury retrograde is describing an optical illusion that occurs when it appears that Mercury is moving backwards in its orbit for a duration of about 3 weeks. This is not actually the case. All planets continue to move in the same orbital direction around the sun, and it is against the laws of physics for Mercury to actually move backwards in its orbit. And so really there is just a distortion in what we're seeing Mercury doing here on Earth, from our perspective on Earth, to what it's actually doing in the sky. And to understand why this happens, I'm going to ask you to envision driving on the highway, a 2-lane highway, and you are coming up on another car that's going slower than you. And when you pass that car, if you were to look over during that time, it would appear that that car would be moving backwards for a moment in time while you were passing them. And of course, this is actually not the case. Both cars would still be going forward. It's just an optical illusion that occurs based off of the speed of both cars and the distance. And so the same thing happens with planets in our solar system. When when a planet passes Earth or Earth passes another planet, there's a moment during that time where it appears from our perspective on Earth that that planet will begin to move backwards in its orbit before moving forward again. And that is the retrograde cycle. So if you were to track Mercury in the sky every single day over the course of August, you would see Mercury slowing down in its forward motion and then beginning to move backwards, retracing this section of its orbit that it just crossed over for about 3 weeks before it would pause again and then start moving forward. And in this, we see Mercury retracing its steps. And so the retrograde cycles are connected and correlated to the energy of reflecting, reviewing, and retracing our steps. So there is a distortion of information taking place during Mercury retrograde, right? We know that Mercury is moving direct in its orbit still. However, we're perceiving a backward motion. There's an incoherent stream of information taking place. And this is really where Mercury retrograde gets its reputation for miscommunication, technology issues, don't make decisions, which all of this does have a place. However, that is not the only invitation for this time. We can gain a lot of benefit from the act of reviewing and reflecting and retracing our steps. So the question is really, how do you want to navigate this time? An unconscious way of navigating this energy could certainly produce mental confusion, overanalysis, misunderstandings, and really just struggling with what information means in our life. But there's a better way to navigate Mercury retrograde. The first thing I recommend during this time is to give yourself more space to make decisions. During this chapter, where information could feel distorted in how it comes into our system and how we exchange it with other people, if you are unsure how to approach something or what to do in a certain circumstance, just give yourself more time. My favorite Alan Watts quote is, "Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone." Sometimes space is all you need to come to that right decision for yourself. And Mercury retrograde is certainly a chapter to lean into that. My second recommendation on working with Mercury retrograde for your growth and expansion is to actually develop your communication skills with other people. This is a really wonderful time to focus on clarity. This reviewing and reflecting could produce an experience of being unsure what something means. When someone says something, it could mean many things. And this is a time for you to maybe ask more questions to really ensure that you understand that person and what they're meaning, and vice versa. Really make sure that others understand you and what you're trying to convey. I also recommend just double checking the details of your plans and making sure that information was relayed correctly to each other. Can be helpful to avoid any mishaps, if you will. A third way that Mercury retrograde could really benefit you is through developing self-awareness. This act of reviewing, reflecting, and retracing our steps is really helpful in catching things we might have missed the first time around. So paying attention to your thoughts, the stories you tell yourself, things of that nature could really produce a new perspective. Your beliefs and the meaning you assign to information has a huge impact on how you create your life. And so using this time to pause and reflect and ask yourself, why am I viewing this situation this way? Is there another way to see it? And in changing your perspective, you can maybe find another solution, find another avenue to take that is ultimately better. So that's how I invite you to navigate this upcoming Mercury retrograde. Use this time to develop your communication, understand how limiting stories have been moving in your life, and develop your perspective. Do a little bit of mental rewiring during this time, and that could really change your life. If you found this information on Mercury retrograde interesting, then I actually have a whole blog for you to read on this upcoming month of August and a couple other cosmic dynamics that are taking place. And the information I've shared in this video broadly applies to the collective. How Mercury retrograde will show up and influence each one of our lives really depends on your natal chart. So if you want to really go deep into this mental rewiring and to use this retrograde energy for your growth and expansion, well, then I welcome you into a private session with me where we get to explore where Mercury was when you were born, along with any other planets that could be involved, and dive deeper into the specifics of how to navigate this next month for development and expansion in your life. The links for those resources are below, and thanks for watching today, and I hope you have a wonderful Mercury retrograde.